Magandang araw po ulit and welcome to another video. And in this video, pag-usapan natin paano palamigin yung temperature ng isang AMD Ryzen na processor. And in this video, gagamitin natin yung processor na meron tayo, which is yung AMD Ryzen 7 5700G. So what's with this processor? So this processor is an AM4 socket, a 5th generation Ryzen CPU. It has a 3.8 to 4.6 na boost clock capability, and this is designed with an 8-core, 16 threads, at syempre, meron nga siyang built-in graphics na Vega 8 which has a 2000 megahertz na speed, right? So that was just a quick overview kung ano yung specifications ng processor at kung ano yung meron ito. And to show you kung ano yung details and information na na-capture ko about the recent changes that I did. So let's go to our desktops and I will explain to you kung ano-ano yung mga. So here in our desktops, we did some testing, we did some benchmarking and actual scenario as well. And this is what I've got. So on the left side, yan po yung settings before I did the configuration, and on the right side, ito yung configuration after we did the change. So we did some synthetic benchmark. We ran some applications who do the benchmarking. And as we can see from here, on Cinebench 23, yung previous configuration has a points of 13,814 compared dun sa recent configuration na ginawa natin, which is 13,490. So same thing with PC Mark 10, the previous configuration, it has the score of 6,283, and with the recent configuration that we did, we got the score of 6,062. Alright, so what we can see from here is that using the synthetic benchmark, mas mataas yung performance or mas mataas yung scores ng previous configuration na meron tayo compared dun sa recent configuration na ginawa natin. So that's from the synthetic benchmark. And then another test that I did is we do an actual testing or based on how we typically use yung ating desktop system. So from here, when it comes to video rendering, so most of the time I'm rendering 1080p videos, and what I did here is meron tayong tatlong video na ginamit, and then sinum up ko na lang yung total duration ng tatlong video na yon. Okay, so from here we can see that from video rendering, the previous configuration took us 7 minutes and 22 seconds to complete. Okay, and then with the recent configurations, it took us 7 minutes and 4 seconds to complete yung total video duration. So from here naman, makita natin, unlike dun sa synthetic benchmark, on video rendering, when it comes to the actual performance, makita natin na mas merong gain yung changes na ginawa natin dun sa configuration. So it has most likely 4.07% yung improvement when it comes to video rendering. And yung pinaka highlights, which is what we wanted to show on this video, is how about the cooling temperature or operating temperature ng ating processor. So on the last data that I gathered, when it comes to the temperature, so previously, meron tayong 77 degrees na maximum CPU temperature. But after the changes that we did, nakapag-capture na lang tayo ng 70 degrees na CPU temperature. So that's around 9% improvement coming from our previous configuration. And when it comes to dun sa average, our previous average is 75.6 degrees Celsius, and with the recent configuration that we did, we were able to lower our CPU temperature down to 68.8 degrees Celsius, which is 8.9 or most likely na sa margin natin na 9% cooler compared dun sa ating previous configuration. So, ano yung ginawa ko? Paano natin na-achieve this one? So, basically, this is just by an accident lang din, kung paano ko to nagawa kasi nagkaroon tayo ng issue dun sa ating PC build. And then when I tried to do some random settings or random check as part of the troubleshooting kung paano ko na-explore itong functionality na ito. So, to show you what I did, that is simply by adjusting yung ating CPU clock speed configuration. So, our previous configuration, we have here yung auto. So, meaning, sa BIOS pala to, by the way, no? So, by the way, on the BIOS settings ng ating CPU, previously, it was set to auto. So, meaning, bahala na yung BIOS na mag-adjust kung ano yung clock speed na gagamitin, kung ano yung voltage na gagamitin ng ating processor. Together with the PBO, yung Precision Boost Optimization ni AMD. So, that's what it is from our previous build. Okay? And then, with the improve or with the cooler temperature na meron dun sa ating processor, I set it into fixed configuration. So, meaning yung clock speed, instead of setting it to auto, ginawa natin na 4.07 GHz yung ating clock speed, and then yung the voltage, by the default na 1.35, ibinaba natin yung voltage into 1.25 volts. And this is the result. So, in summary, when it comes to the synthetic benchmarks, definitely mas malaki yung scores, mas malaki yung performance, or mas mataas yung binibigay niya na scores with our synthetic benchmarking tools na ginamit. But on the actual usage, when it comes to the video rendering, and then yung na-capture natin na temperature, dun lumalabas yung strength, no? Dun lumalabas yung advantages when we set it into fixed clock speed and fixed na voltage dun sa ating AMD Ryzen na processor. So this is the result that I got, and let's go back dun sa ating camera. Alright. So ayun nga yung details na na-capture natin. So again, this is just an accident kung paano ako nakapag-come up with that one. Pero from here makita natin na meron tayong konting tweaks na ginawa, no? So given that the processor supports from 3.8 up to 4.6 na clock speed, kaya ang ginawa natin, instead of using yung default na 3.8 na base clock, inangat natin siya ng konti. No, so from 3.8, ginamit natin yung 4.07 gigahertz na clock speed to have a few improvement, no. Hindi ko na lang na-try na i-increase pa. So far, satisfied naman ako dun sa performance na meron with the 4.07 gigahertz na clock speed. Siguro kapag may time, paglaruan pa natin kung up to which or ano yung maximum na pwedeng gawin with the voltage naman, kasi coming from the default na 1.35 volts yung default na settings na ina-accept ng ating AMD processor. So, binaba naman natin siya down to 1.25 volts. So, sa tingin ko, yun yung pinaka-main factor kung bakit nagkaroon tayo ng improve in performance. Kasi syempre, mas mababang voltage yung binabato natin sa processor. So, most likely or logically, mas mababa rin talaga yung temperature na pwede niyang i-generate with the lower voltage. So, yun yung ginawa natin, and I hope nakatulong sa inyo information. And if in case you're planning to do some manual settings, so this is so far a setting that works for AMD Ryzen 5700G na processor. Okay? So it varies among different set of processors. So not necessarily na 5700G. It's also the same across all chipsets kasi nga depende no dun sa mga materials na ginamit at yung condition ng ating mga processor. But just to give you a tip kung paano ako nag-come up with that figure is what I did before. Syempre hindi ko naman siya basta-basta ginawa lang na gano'n dahil hindi naman tayo familiar with manual settings. No? Normally, we set it into auto kasi bahala na yung BIOS, bahala na yung operating system na mag-adjust dahil hindi naman tayo masyadong marunong when it comes to manual tuning ng ating processor. But how I come up with this one is that ginamit natin yung logging ng AMD Radeon na kung saan we let the PC run for 30 minutes and then within that 30 minutes, ginagawa ko yung mga activities na kailangan kong gawin and then at the same time, nilalag po niya ano yung temperature and ano yung clock speed nung processor during those events na ginagamit natin yung ating PC. And then, based from that list, so sinilip ko na lang ano yung combination ng clock speed at ng voltage na na-capture. At least, when it comes to that one, since it was lag, proven yon, no, na nag-work yung ganong, nag-work yung ganong combination. So, medyo less risk dahil meron tayong data to show or to prove that that combination of clock speed and voltage is working. So, that's it. I hope meron kayong napulot na information on this simple video. And if in case meron kayong mga manual settings using your 5700G or any AMD Ryzen chipset or processors, you can share it in the comment section. And kung sa tingin niyo meron akong na-miss with this information, you can also place it in the comment section. Sasagutin po natin yan. And thank you for tuning in. Maraming salamat po. And again, God bless.